everybody. Once again, I'm Lee McCrafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan Less Than Guru. We have Mars Video Cat here, and today I want to talk about the slow burn. So, what I mean by the slow burn is adding to your campaign or to your adventure a plot slowly, not just rushing to get it done, but dragging it out. Now, I will admit that this is a lot easier for open world sandboxy type games and not when you're going specifically through an adventure path such as Pathfinder or a mega adventure such as Torg up there, D&D modules, whatever the game system calls its adventures. But if you have something that maybe you use adventures from here and adventures from there and pull it into your campaign, think about the slow burn. Think about something that builds up over time, and it might start insignificant and start building up. And I think that is something that can really add to a game. Once again, this is a concept that it's kind of, you start hearing about it from, or hearing bits and pieces from different places, and you go, wow, I'm getting a lot of this type of thing. And what are these examples that I've gotten recently that have made me think about the slow burn? Well, the first I'm going to discuss, not necessarily the first thing that came to mind, is this D&D 5th edition book that I recently purchased, which I think is pretty just new. It's like the latest, at this point, the latest D&D. Well, it says first printing August 2021, so a couple of months ago. But this is a newfangled thing, and you watch the channel, you know that I have not played D&D 5th edition, but starting Sunday, I will be a player. So why do I have this book? Well, I'll just say it was nostalgia. I was watching a interview on YouTube, and Chris Perkins was talking that old D&D action figure characters from the 80s, such as my favorite War Duke, were in here, and that just made me buy it. But then I bought it and I read it, or I have read some of it. I'm still working my way through it, but it's an interesting thing that I might take bits and pieces out of and not run this as a campaign. I don't know D&D 5th edition enough to feel comfortable running it that way, but I am always for taking any adventure from any system and altering it as needed. So this would be altered in many ways, shape, and form into my homebrewed Palladium 1st edition system, and I would just do it on my own. And some of these stat blocks I would pretty much just keep the same and wouldn't matter at all. So why am I talking about this and the slow burn? So this assumes you're starting this at first level and you're just doing this and nothing else. So their kind of bring the party together is everybody, and if you are going to play this, don't watch this. The other examples I have are for older editions, so either you played them or might not, but this will be spoiler alerty. So right now the spoiler alert is for Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So, starting this adventure, assumes you are first level characters, and what is the common bond of the party, because that's always something that you want to think about. Why is the party together? Why do they have a similar goal? And in this one, it's because every character has something that was taken from them, that they all had entered a carnival in the past, and since characters are usually around the same age, and the carnival only comes every 7 years, I would assume that maybe the characters should be around, depending on their species, 14 to 21, unless you want to play a old elf starting out new, which is perfectly acceptable, but it only appears every 7 years, so that kind of can get wonky to think about it. But everybody's lost something, and they have a neat little table that you roll for the characters, and the characters lose something, and then they go on this adventure. Now, I will say that this gives great inspirations for these lost things, but even though I don't necessarily think that balance necessarily means specific mechanic balance, that sometimes playing can balance mechanics, or they don't have to be exactly a flat line that like some games do. I still think there is something a little wonky or something you might want to try to balance a little more when you have something like somebody lost their favorite doll. All right, they're grown up. What's the doll really mean? And another person has lost the ability to lie. That's kind of a major thing, especially if you want to play like a thief or in another system like an assassin or something like that, or just be a sneaky-ish type person, or a person who's a good person who in a certain situation might need to lie about something to protect others. So that's kind of a big thing. Neither of them really are mechanical. They're both role-playing, but one has a lot more seriousness to it, a lot more gravitas. So the first thing I would do is go on that list, and the first thing I actually did was go on the list, and I went down and I kind of balanced some of those things. I took out I have 7 characters, 7 players, and there were 8 things, so I eliminated that one and I kind of adjusted other ones. But instead of giving all of the players it at the one time, the slow burn is now as the players are going through other adventures, their characters are going to start losing these things. And once one character has lost one thing, then that is off the table. So each one will lose something that is specific to them, instead of like 3 people losing the ability to lie or the ability to come up with new ideas. So they cannot be creative, but they can't just, hey, I have an idea. They could say something that has been done before, but nothing creative in the future. So that's kind of things I'm doing. I'm kind of going to sprinkle them in as the rest of the adventure campaign and adventures and side plots and stuff take form. I'm going to sprinkle those through, and then once everybody has lost something, now they can go try to get that back. So that's something I wanted to bring up. You can take adventures that are built for this through this level, and you can disassemble it and scatter all along if you have another campaign, or if you want to weave 2 campaigns together. If you look at my Torg over here, I've done that with various mega adventures. During one point of Relics of Power, I put in a couple of chapters of another mega adventure in it that kind of were a little sealed off, and you didn't need to necessarily do the latter ones, or the latter ones could come later and even done by different characters. So I've done that. The second slow burn example I want to give is, let's go back from 5th edition. Let's go back to the much hated but I love 4th edition. This was one that was kind of did at what people call 3.95 or 3.7. I guess Pathfinder sometimes it was 3.75. So this is like 3.95, the essentials, the last gasp of breath that 4th edition had when they were trying to say, oh, we really haven't changed, really, and used all the 4th edition rules, streamlined fighters and other characters to make them very simple, and tried to pretend that the rest of the 4th edition wasn't compatible, or wasn't a thing. Actually, it wasn't even, I mean, they're completely compatible, and they kind of said, yeah, it's not replacing anything, but they never said, hey, there's these other books that you can use with these. But having said that and gone off on that little rant, here is something that the current Palladium, again, 4th edition, Palladium 1st edition homebrewed characters I have are kind of starting this. Their last session kind of started the first encounter in here. That was session 15. I started the plot to this in session, I believe it was session 1. If not 1, it was definitely 2, when I started having things seem getting colder. And as time went on in the game, things are colder. And this, it does have it where a unnaturally early winter sets in, and the party's goal is to stop the winter. That's why it's called the Cairn of the Winter King. And it says it's an adventure for 4th level characters who are D&D 4th edition 4th level. My characters all right now are around third level. but we'll see how they get through it. They don't have to do this. They could wait a year and just have a year of winter if that's what they want. If that's what they want, then that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to force them to go here, but this is the current hook on the lure, or the lure on the hook on the fishing pole. That's kind of, hey, here it is. If they ignore it, well, consequences, but not forcing them, and they can deal and adapt, and it's not going to end the campaign. So winter sets in. I've been having winter kind of, or fall, started explaining things. One of the characters, who's a bear woman, has been taking this role playing very fun in a, I'm trying to get ready to hibernate, so I'm gonna fatten myself up and get ready for winter in that way. So I think that's kind of fun and amusing, but a slow burn. Let's not just boom, winter, fix it. Here's what's happening. We see it happening kind of in the background. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, this is what's going on. A couple other examples I want to give, and I will give a shout out to Bandits Keep, a more old school OSR BX type D&D channel that has a lot of good ideas. I've commented a few times because there's a lot of things that he says that I agree with. Now, again, he is old school, but I see a lot of mentality of old school in some of the things that go against one of my favorite editions, 4th edition. People complain about old school the same way that they complain about 4th edition that aren't necessarily valid. So that's an interesting discussion. But one of the things that he posted on a survey was what type of, if you have an intelligent weapon, an intelligent sword, and it's one alignment and your character is another alignment, do you just not have them do it? What's more interesting to you? Just, nope, you can't wield it, or hey, I'm going to try to corrupt you, or etc. And my answer is reflected in my Earth Dawn game that I'm playing. And I'm not going to say anything bad about the game master because he's a great game master, has always been a great game master. It's just sometimes game mastering, especially when you have 8 players, can get very complicated. Sometimes you get these plot hooks in your head, and if you look at my Blood on the Blasted Lands, there's some times where I could have dragged things out, made it more interesting, but there gets to be a let's do it, let's get it, I'm so excited, and it's gone and done. And maybe if you would have slowed things down, it would have had more impact. And an example of this was my character, and I've mentioned this in my updates. My character had acquired, or the group had acquired, but then it bonded with me a dagger, and it's a meanie dagger is what my Windling calls it. And it basically was an assassin's dagger. It wants me to kill. It wanted me to, basically it wanted to drink blood. It was a blood drinking type weapon. And my character is a good character. It's a protector type character. And even fighting bad guys, it wasn't like my character is one that would go over and slit throats and stuff like that. And that's what the dagger wanted me to do. And it was something that was very soon after I had bonded to this dagger. And as soon as there was, and I will say this, as soon as there was a viable option that I felt would allow me to get rid of this link without, and it possibly could kill me, and I was taking that stance of, if the game master says, well, you do this, but the dagger had kind of resurrected you, so you died, that was something that I, as a player, and my character, in character, knew about, understood, and was willing to take that chance. I survived and made a dumb choice, thinking that the dagger would be safe where it was, and it wasn't, and it was taken, and now it's probably out there, and that's part of the slow burn now. That is great, but if the dagger wanted to corrupt me, if that was the goal and the plot, it shouldn't have immediately started thirsting for blood. It should have kept those sentiments to itself and slowly started suggesting things to my character, reasonable things, and then take it step further, until I have had a longer period with the dagger. I have had a more bond with the character. Maybe I've spent a lot of legend points on that bond, increasing the thread that I knew would go away or such at that point, and that could have drawn it out, given that slow burn, that more. Like I said, I found a viable mystical way to sever the link. It was successful, and now the slow burn is who's acquired the dagger, and or at least I think there's somebody out there being kind of like a serial killer going along, but we have no clue who, what, when, where, why, and or we know the why, but that's kind of like one of our side projects. So the slow burn was added there. So I do like that it's been flipped and wasn't just abandoned. Again, when you're going through the adventure path, sometimes you just want to get to the end. You're like, and I'm not saying this as a railroad type thing, but sometimes you're on the train. Maybe you can choose which destination you go. You know, when the tracks diverge or they stop at the station, you can get on another train, but the destination is there, and that's what you're trying to do. And sometimes when you get on those adventure paths and you get on those adventures, it's just like get to the end, get to the end, get to the end, and you kind of lose the journey. So that's basically what I want to say. Think about the slow burn. Think about building stuff over time if you can. If you, like I said, even if something is starting at level 1, just change the stats of the things to fit whatever level you decide to throw into it. Like I said, level 1, my character is all level 3. Who knows what level they'll get to when they finally start getting to the meat, if they ever get to the meat of this. But you get ideas, pick and choose, make the game your own, and think about that slow burn. What a much more satisfying and what role-playing opportunities can result from a long path, a long hook, a long plot line, instead of just I'm so excited to get to the end of it and get the reveal that maybe you make it not as awesome as it could have been. So I'll go ahead and end that, but that's my thought and discussion for today, the slow burn. Once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan, Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.